What's up everyone, it's Keelan. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about scams in the entertainment business. This is something I've seen a lot lately on Facebook groups. It just happened to me last week, and it's something that's happened to me over the course of years. I've not been scammed successfully, which is great, but not trying to throw that vibe out there. But it's one of those things where I want to share my experiences with you, that way you better understand what it might look like from your end, because you might not know you're in a scam until you're too far gone into it. So I've been doing magic since the first grade, and I started at a young age, and I didn't really do a lot of the paperwork. My mentor taught me a lot about the aspect of getting shows and the technical aspect of performing, but there's a lot of business aspect in there that when I was younger, people could have took a lot of advantage over me. And now as an adult, I've been taking a lot of legal action to make sure that my shows are kind of have a safety net. So before, I didn't contract anything. I did not have any invoices. I didn't have any down payments like I do now. Everything was kind of just a gentleman's agreement of a handshake, and I would get paid at the end of the show. And for the most part, if it's a smaller show, like if it's local, it's fine to me. But if I'm performing abroad, I always try to have everything where it's contracted. We have down payments, we have a lot of things. So normally, and this is for anybody who's maybe new to the entertainment business, always have a invoice with how the show is going to go. So just have invoices are super easy to read. So just have your invoice, what it's for, so magic show, and then usually it has like down payment under it too. So it's like the initial price, down payment, and then you can kind of show how it crunches the numbers, and they can show how much they paid. And be sure to get signatures when you do invoices. Make sure they sign it, so just have it to where you have an X and then have them sign their name. Same thing with contracts. Have a contract written up. Normally with contracts, I have it written to where if I'm doing a show in certain places, just work in little things that may help you. So for instance, I live in Indiana currently. If I was to perform out west somewhere, let's just say Arizona, okay, well, I am going to need help with a hotel. So normally you do this in negotiation. They can do the hotel for you. If they ask, hey, do you need a hotel room? Make sure you write it into the contract that, hey, you are supplying the hotel. And then also maybe food. Hey, when I'm performing, I can eat. So for instance, like say it's a wedding kind of reception feel. I can have some of the food too. So if it's like a buffet setting, hey, can I have like a plate, so I'm not having to like leave and come back or do anything weird like that. You kind of want to stay in the parameters. That way you're keeping your customers happy. So the biggest thing that happened was recently I had someone reach out to me for a show, and they texted me, which was very, very odd to me. That was kind of like the first red flag to me. I don't feel comfortable with texts. I usually enjoy it if people can call me or if they email. Emails are perfect for me because I like seeing everything as it unfolds, so I know, hey, I know where the show's at, I know what times the show's at, I know how much we're doing pricing wise. That way I kind of have like a backlog of how everything went down, so in case if something happens, hey, these are the emails we sent back and forth. So texts are the same thing, but it just feels very, very unprofessional to do texts. I should have just pushed them towards emails, but I was like, you know what, we're in a socially awkward time. I don't want to push the agenda, so I just let them talk. So they said the show is for their daughters, and they will be graduating, and it's their birthday. Now, they told me the age of their daughters, which was like 15 or 16, and they said it's a graduation party, which threw me off because I feel like that's like a sophomore in high school. If you're graduating high school, you're like 17, 18, you're a little bit older going into college. And then if you're going from middle school to high school, it's a different age. So like it very much threw me off, and I just didn't feel really uncomfortable because I was like, hey, another red flag. So I have 2 red flags here. The third one was how everything was written. Now, there wasn't any spelling errors, but punctuation was very much a thing. So every time they ended a sentence, it was space, question mark, space, period, and that's what really threw me off. And I feel like that was unsettling to me. So we ended up going through the negotiation process, and it was mainly just, what kind of show do you want? I'm very versatile with my shows, so I kind of have like a menu. So it's like, hey, do you want close-up, stage, strolling, comedy? Like, what kind of shows do you want? And then I kind of give like time ranges for each one, because I can do a stage show for an hour, but I can also do walk around for 2 or an hour itself. So it can be a 2 to 3 hour time. So I ended up getting down to this specific number, and then we got down to the nitty gritty on payment. Now with payment, this was kind of interesting because they didn't really negotiate with me. I gave them a number and they were like, okay, that's good. Normally when I do a show, people kind of try to get me for less. And this one, he kind of just was like, we're going for it. So I didn't think anything of that, but now looking back at it, I was like, that normally doesn't happen. The other thing was, he was very interested in what credit card system I was using. Now, for the most part, if I'm doing shows, I just usually do something simple like PayPal. So I was like, well, whatever works for you. I try to be very convenient for whoever I'm performing for. That way it's just easier on them, easier on me. So I ended up saying, well, what's your email? I'll send you an invoice in an email. So they sent me an email, and the email didn't really look anything odd. Usually I can kind of backtrack with email. I'll put it into Google, because normally I like to look into people I'm performing for just to make sure that like everything's good, especially if it's like odd like this. This one just kind of threw me off. So I looked it up, and there was nobody, like no social media or anything pertaining to that email, which kind of felt really weird to me, because normally if I put in an email, it goes to like my website or anything that is associated with that email. So that was kind of like another, like, okay, maybe this is off, but I sent him the invoice on PayPal, and I get a text back saying, I can't use PayPal, my credit card doesn't work on PayPal. And I was like, that's pretty weird. That's, you know, it's pretty standard, I feel, but I guess. And I was like, well, what credit card system works for you then? And they were kind of trying to lean for me just to use it straight out on my bank, which really was really weird. They're like, hey, can you just send it via Zelle through your bank, or can you do it through QuickBooks? And I just felt very odd at this request, because it just didn't feel right. I wanted to go out, because I mean, it was local, so I could have just said, hey, you can give me cash, I can go pick it up very quick. But ended up waiting like a day, because I was just kind of like, I don't know what to do about this. And they ended up texting me. They're like, hey, can you take a check? Now, checks really throw me off, so I was really like, eh. Also, the other thing I wanted to bring up too is when I sent the invoice, they sent me a location, the location of the show where it was at, actually, the address of this house. And the house actually was on the market. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can backtrack it a little bit. And it turns out that the person that was messaging me is not the person that owns that house. So I was really kind of like, okay, this is maybe benefit of the doubt, maybe, just maybe, someone he knows, but I completely doubt it. Maybe it's like an ex-wife or something. Anyway, also don't mean to make assumptions, but I'm just, you know, it just felt really weird. So I was like, okay, yeah, this isn't a real thing. I even had to consult with like my girlfriend's brother, because I was like, this looks weird, right? But he wanted to send me a check. Now, I have been in this situation before. So when I was younger, someone did send me a check for a show, and they were like, can you deposit this check into your account, but also pay our photographer with that money? And I'm like, why don't you just send the photographer the money with your why am I paying your photographer through my, like? So I ended up cashing the check, but I didn't send it forward to the photographer, because I realized when I cashed it, someone was like, hey, you know it's a scam, right? You shouldn't cash that. And I was like, what? I already did. So I ended up reaching to the bank, and I was like, hey, this is gonna bounce, like this isn't, and they squared it away for me, and they got it all sorted out. I was like, hey, apparently I didn't realize this was a scam until the very last second, and I learned through that. So normally I know now when people do checks, for it to be at the resolution of a show. Now I know it's odd and it's difficult to get the down payment. Again, I mean, we have so many different media options, but it felt sketchy with this one. And then check wise, if you're giving me a check, I would rather it at the resolution of the show, you know, when we're talking and you can sign it in front of me and such, because then I know that, like, hey, we went through all the measures, I have a contract, I have an invoice with your signature on it, and everything is clean. Which sucks, because it's like, back in the day, I just used to be like, oh yeah, I'll come over for a bit, do a show, and get paid. And now it's I mean, it's a business. That's what it is. It's growing. I'm happy that it's growing, but always cover yourself. So learn a lot about invoices, learn a lot about contracts, learn a lot about the different medias of POS systems, which is payment of sale, or point of sale, sorry, point of sale. So again, I use PayPal, I use those kind of things, and it's sometimes people just like to just screw you over, and it really sucks. But try to keep an open mind. Just be sure. Let's go down through the line here. If the texts look weird, like if what they're saying is very, very kind of jumbled, like the grammar's off or the spelling's off, then something's up. Always check the email. If the email's weird, you can kind of see the emails more with social media scams. More people are like, oh hey, we found you on TikTok and we think you'd be a great fit for collaboration. Normally if you look at those emails, they look really wonky. Also be careful with opening those emails because it could be phishing, which they're trying to wait for you to click on something that you shouldn't, and then it opens up your IP address and a lot of other stuff, and it becomes a huge headache later. Be sure to keep safe with your banking information. I know it's self-explanatory, but when you're doing business, you kind of don't think of it. You're just like, oh, hey, like I have a potential show and this is a down payment. You might not think anything of it. Just be very, very mindful of it. And then also don't try and collect checks through the mail. Make sure you're there with them. I mean, again, down payment is one thing. You know, you have to get that little bit of security in there. But if they're trying to send a check through the mail like a month or two before the show, it just feels really odd. And it feels like you're just really because they want to send the whole entire amount, and then you're going to end up having to pay that entire amount to them because they're going to bounce it on you. So just keep your mind open about these things. Know kind of like what to look for. Again, I know I didn't really touch base on a lot of it. There's even a scam going around here where the entertainer is actually scamming the customers. Apparently a bouncy house company over here figured out how contracts work, and they have written into the contract terms and conditions that both parties can cancel. And so for instance, if a transfer of money happened, so say for instance they got a down payment of $200 and they canceled, they didn't have to pay you the $200 back, and it was very weird, and a lot of people fell for it. A lot of people didn't read the contract. So be sure, it's another thing, be sure to read everything in a contract. Make sure you read all the terms and conditions. That way you're not paying and not getting anything out of it. But it is definitely crazy out here, guys. I want you to be safe. My friend Michael O'Brien did a lot of videos on scams on the magician side too, where it's more of the eBay and trying to buy magic trick scams. So as a magician, that's kind of a big thing going on too. People just can't make an honest living out here anymore. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and I want to do more kind of behind the scenes stuff with these videos. I feel that this can help a lot of people. I feel like there's more hobbyists in magic than there are performers, and I would love to help people that could potentially be a performer in their community. So if you need any help, comment below, and if you're a seasoned veteran, comment below too some things I might have missed on this video of just what might happen if you're scammed, or if you're in a different industry, or if you do something else in entertainment, what might have happened to you. I would love to hear your stories, guys. But thank you guys so much. I hope to see you next time, and take care.